Happy Saturday morning, June the 21st. I've had Miss Sarah on the back burner for quite a while to begin an interview. Sarah has been helping with a lot of research. She has been, you'll see, she just emerged online, commenting, sharing great stuff. And she's at a place where she wants to do this. And so, as I mentioned in the interview, I refer to her as the OG of FACTnet, the original gangsta of FACTnet, and we will explain why. And I want to say that I believe Sarah and I are in sync on this. I asked her at the beginning why she wants to do this interview. Most people that I've met who are out, why they want to participate online, and that is when we all first got involved with NTCC, what was the reason? We thought we were part of this great, huge endeavor by this man who was selected by God to have this unbelievable move on the earth towards saving souls and helping people. That doesn't change when you leave. That does not change. That's still in your heart, and it's still a desire. And this is a way to do that, aside from all the other ways in our lives that we help and try to provide relief for the broken and the unloved and the shunned. Getting the message out is a way. It's and her taking time. She's driving around in a car in this interview, for crying out loud. You'll hear her turn signal come on at times, and she had to move at a certain time. So is it supreme audio quality? No. It's okay, though. It's okay. It's about the message, not about anything else, not about the aesthetics. You want them to be perfect, but if they're not, you roll with it. You roll with it. And we rolled with it. So here is that interview. This is part 1. Whether Sarah knows it or not. I think she does. There's things left we have not covered yet. Tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself. Maybe start with, if you'd like, why you want to do this.
Okay, sure. Sarah DeYoung, and I only spent 6 years with NTCC, as you know, from 1996 until 2002. So it's been a lot of years since I left, and a lot of years since I've really even examined why I joined in the first place. And the reason I'm doing this now, and the reason I'm involved again with talking about this group and trying to understand how and why they do what they do and how people get involved, is because of the divorce I just went through from the wall marriage from that group that did last 20 years. Yes. And when it ended so spectacularly. And just, the tactics that were used and the things I experienced were so very familiar, and also so very devastating. And it led me on this journey back to the beginning. And so anyway, and then I found your channel midway through all of this and started listening to the interviews. And it was Desiree's that really, really, really I could relate to, especially when she was talking about what she was going through with her children in court, and the drive, and when she went out to that field and just cried. I've been through a lot with that regard with court and the children. And Anyway, so I am telling the story now because I couldn't believe they're still doing it. They're still, I've seen the whitewashed image that they have out there online. I've seen it through the years, but I haven't really, looked that closely. And when I started hearing the stories that are still coming out, it was just so upsetting to me that they're still doing this.
Yes.
And they're still entangling people, and I'm just done staying quiet. I stayed quiet, not just about this group and my experiences, not that I had anything super traumatic happen to me there, but, you keep your voice quiet, and you're just acceptable, and, nobody really, why would, it's just this little group, and it's just this little chunk of my life. Like, I'm not going to keep focusing on it forever. But now it's, I want to tell my story too, because it's just one little piece of this tapestry that they've woven over the decades. And so, yeah, here I am, and that's why I'm telling it.
Well, what's interesting is I feel like it fits in nicely with what my personal mission is, which is to have this body of information out there to warn others from going in, and to expose what they do to those who are in, and
Correct.
hopefully get the attention. I mean, through the years, I think many have tried to reach out to commanders at bases and the IRS, and there's been whistleblowers and everything, but I think it's just a matter of sometimes you can't worry about all of that. You just want to do your part and have some sort of a legacy out there. Like, if I know something, I'm going to tell it. Not everybody feels compelled. You didn't feel compelled for a long time.
Right.
But having said that, before we go further about your background, I just want to say personally how much I appreciate you, how much and we joke, or I've told you that my daughter and I call you the OG, the original gangster of FACTnet. Because it was, and I have it right in front of me, on September 30th, 2003, at 1:50 a.m., this woman, or man, whoever it was, said, I'm looking for information about the New Testament Christian Churches of America and on their headquarters in Graham, Washington. Can anyone tell me anything about this organization or where to find out more specifics about them? It wasn't until April 2004, that next year, that you responded. And so before you go into your background, can you just tell me how you found FACTnet and how you...
Yes, so in April of 2004, my ex-husband and I, we were still married. We had been out of the church for a little over a year, and we had just moved back across the country to Connecticut. And I had already been taking some psychology classes, and so I had already started realizing like what this group was about and how very common their tactics were. And once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And so I just wanted to know more and more about coercive groups and cults and brainwashing and the methods of control that are used. And it was oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. And so I turned to the internet. I read books, but I also turned to the internet, and I was like, for sure, there's going to be somebody out there talking about this group eventually. It's only a matter of time.
Wow.
And so I remember I looked up the church name, New Testament Christian Churches of America. And the first thing that I came across was not FACTnet. It was the article, and I don't want to get too deep into it now, but it was the article about Maria and Roland Moreno.
Oh, yeah.
And they were very close, as close as someone can get to someone in the church. She was the one who prayed with me the first night I came to church, and Roland was the one who baptized me because the pastor of the church had surgery, and they were some of the first people who greeted me in Graham when I got there. And so yeah, it hit me. It was devastating to me, and so then I was really determined to find out what's going on. And so on that coercive group page, FACTnet, I found that thread one night while on my mission to find something out about them, and I responded. And
right.
The rest is history. Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to set that up. We will go back to what you responded, because even at the time, just as a quick
background along with that. In December of 2003 was when Ronnie Dennis left and split off from the group in December, that December. And we remember it because it was the day of my daughter Diana's birthday. So,
you know, it's really funny too. I found out later because I didn't know anything about the split, but that very day was the day my ex-husband and I left Washington State to move back to the East Coast, which is a weird coincidence.
That is a weird parallel.
Right.
Well, and so it was that next, of course, April, where you had responded. I don't know who saw it from the church. I found that very interesting, considering we weren't supposed to be on the internet or anything. But somehow someone did. I don't recall that story, but a bunch of us were approached and asked to put our good report out there after the thread started. At the time, of course, when I
remember that.
Yeah.
And all of your posts went on and on and on, like trying to drown us out.
Yep. Well,
and we just kept starting new threads.
Right. I think it's because there was a limit on the FACTnet on how many characters you could do. And so then you got to the end, you're like, but I'm not done. So I guess we're going to do another one. And it's embarrassing. I mean, it's out there. So it is what it is.
It's part of the story. And it's like you just own it. It's just, it's actually, I think it's actually like a really important part. You can say like, look what I did while under their influence.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and trust me, when we got out and someone outed us on FACTnet, because we weren't going to go on there, someone said, oh, the Pelfreys are out. And then someone else said, well, who are you to say that? You don't know if they are or not. Did they say you could post this? Like, everyone needs permission in the world, to do anything. Yeah, I actually even went to the bathroom today, and I did it all on my own, and no one helped me, and no one gave me permission. It's just, anyway, they threw in our face, well, what about all that stuff you said? Yeah, we were under the influence. That's what we're out here to tell you. And I thought what you presented at the time, when I found out that was you, and I knew who you were from when you were in Graham, I thought you were very nice. Like you weren't, the meanness came from inside NTCC for the most part.
I agree. I mean, I agree they were mean.
Starting with Mike Keckle, who couldn't even come out with his own name and had to be the whirlwind, but that's for another time. But I want to put you in context is all. You're a very nice lady, and you conducted yourself so nicely on FACTnet. And even with everyone, coming out at you and your ex-husband at the time. And so, we will go back to that, but I value your experience highly because you've had quite a multifaceted. You were in the military, so let's start with that. Let's start with where were you in the military and how you met up with these folks.
So I met up with them in Okinawa, Japan in 1996, December. It was actually Christmas Day when they first came across me. I was doing my laundry.
On Christmas?
On Christmas. Yeah, so you can imagine. My roommate she had gone home to visit family, and I had not. I mean, we were in Okinawa just for 7 months on deployment. So it was just another day. It was a day off of work, which we didn't get many of at that point. We were working 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. So it was a day off.
And what branch of the military?
I was in the Navy, in the Seabees, actually. And so...
What's a Seabee?
I was doing a construction battalion.
Is that right?
Construction, like combat, like the combat construction men. So yeah, I was doing laundry, and 2 brothers who were on base soul winning approached me as I was going back to my room and invited me out to church that night. And I wasn't looking for church at all, but it was Christmas, And I said, is it Catholic? Because, I'm Catholic. Even though I hadn't gone to church in years, I never made my confirmation, but, I grew up going to catechism, and my dog tag's been Roman Catholic. So
My dog tags.
so they said no, and they invited me, and they were so nice though, and it was Christmas, and I was halfway around the world, and I was also looking for something different than the construction battalion lifestyle. Let's just say that they worked hard and they party hard.
Right.
And so I said I would go out sometime. They pushed, and I agreed to go out the next Sunday morning, which was, I think, 2 or 3 days away. Whatever day Christmas was in 1996, it was the following Sunday morning, and I did not go. I slept in. I ignored their knock, and they came back that night. I didn't know they would, but now looking back, of course they did. So they caught me off guard, and off I went that very night to the little church up on I think it's the 2nd or the 3rd floor in Okinawa.
Right.
And
just as a side note, when I was in the Philippines, the Ashmores had left there, and they had gone to start the church in Okinawa. So several of us had gone up a couple of times to visit them. So I remember the little tiny little place they were in. And then I saw that later on they had, was it more spacious, that place?
I only saw that place. It was,
okay.
I don't know how big the first one was. In comparison, it was medium size. I don't really know how to. It was so long ago. I remember the women sat on the right and the men sat on the left, and I had never heard. I had only been in Catholic churches up until that point, for the most part, and so Maria Moreno was sitting next to me, and at the end of service, she asked me to pray, and I did. And they invited me
because you wanted to, or because you?
I did. I said, I was really searching for something change in my life. I really wasn't happy with. I was kind of in a sad place. There's sad. I don't know. Actually, I was 20 years old. I'd been in the military 2 years. I was halfway around the world. We worked a lot, but I was one of. I think one of my friends, Tamara, she has the math somewhere. I think it was 600 men to 25 women in that year in our battalion. So It was just it felt like home, as they invited me back to dinner the next night, Monday night fellowship and dinner. And I just fell in that way. They were so nice. They were so loving. They were wonderful. Everybody was.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So my question is, do you mind saying who the pastor was at the time?
It was Matthew Reed and his wife, Debbie Reed.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. By NTC standards, I hit the rock. And in their words.
Right.
It's like I didn't look back. It was fast. It was, my parents, I can remember we would go, if we had to use the phone to call home, we would go at midnight into the office and use the phone, because it was 12 hours difference.
Right.
And I can remember calling my mother, going over there to call her at midnight, and the things I was telling her were so alarming. I don't remember what I was saying, but I had made so many changes so fast. And at that time, it was actually that spring when the whole Hale-Bopp Comet cult, what's his name? Applebaum or something. Who? Do you know which cult? The Heaven's Gate cult.
Oh.
With the comet. That had just happened. And my mother was so worried, because I'm halfway around the world, and she told me I was in a cult. And I was like, no, you just don't know. You haven't seen the light. And by the way, you're going to hell because you work on the job.
Yeah, and you wear pants. Yeah.
Right, yes.
Yeah. All of our parents told us we were in a cult.
She's a school teacher. She was a public school teacher for 30-something years. So yeah, I was only there for 3 months, and then our battalion went back to California. And I was processing out of the Navy during that time. And I remember I had applied for Bible school while in Okinawa. So just in the very first 3 months, they gave their approval, and
Okay,
I was
let me stop you
discharging.
for a quick second.
Sure.
How did that happen? Because supposedly if you go to Bible school, you're called, right? I mean, that's what I always
Right.
thought. Did you feel like you were? Did you hear a lot of preaching about it? Or were you
No, I
encouraged to
never felt like I
go?
was called to preach. No, definitely not.
Oh, no, not to preach.
Um,
They wouldn't let you preach.
oh, right. To go there, yes, I felt drawn to go there. It seemed like a magical place, and like, and I was just so
Magical.
rose glasses on. Like at the time, I was so brand new. It was all just so. It's like they call it like magical thinking almost. It's just like
Yes.
I was scared to go home. Like there's no church there. And in fact, where my battalion was going back to California, I knew there was no church right in the immediate vicinity, and I remember it was recommended to me that like it's okay, like, and I actually like I was told to go and search out like a local full gospel church just to get by, like till I discharged, I could get to Graham,
Right.
and I did. When I got back to California, I went one time, and I said, no, this isn't going to do. And so for the next 3 months, I would take buses and trains back and forth to the LA church for the next 3 months.
How
And also,
far was that?
it was about 2 hours, maybe a little further than 2 hours each way. And once I got like, I was still so involved. I all I wanted to do was be there. I was like their dream, like,
Right.
please, like, what can I do? Where can I give? How much? Like, it's all I was so just, this is all I wanted. And I was bringing people too. So, I was paying tithes, and they were paying tithes probably. Well, I know they were because one of them's still in to this day.
Wow. And was that
and,
the Lucianos and the Masons there in LA?
Yes, and I loved them too.
I know,
nothing
they're-
bad to say about them
No.
at all. Nothing.
They are just the
Nope.
sweetest, most fun people to hang out with, hilarious.
Yes. So you can see how I'm still like, there's nothing bad here.
No.
I just can't wait to get to Graham. Like,
Yes.
this is just such a wonderful experience. And my friends were coming with me, like it was. And there was like about 3 or 4 single girls at the LA church at that time, right around my age range. And so it got to be where we would come in, me and 2 of my Navy friends, females, and we would spend the weekend, and we would all, even though the single girls that all lived in the area, would all just like camp out at this one girl's apartment, and it's so fun. We would all ride around in her Jeep. And actually, I never knew she went to Bible college, but I can see her. She's a pastor's wife now. I never even knew. When I left, I don't think she was even in Graham at the time. So yeah, I spent 3 months there like that, and then in the process of discharging, I went down to San Diego next for the final 3 months.
Oh, no. Was that Figueroa?
So no, it was a Figueroa's, and I also have no bad experiences there. They like took me under their wing. I was like a fourth child almost. They did like some touristy things with me, and I have some pictures of that time. Just like it was a pretty big church for local church standards,
Right.
And
Yes.
actually, so there was like some young people right around my age that were just getting involved, and we all hung out together. And
That
and when
helps.
I left, I was happy to go.
That
What?
helps when you have that bond to keep you tethered.
Yeah, I see one of them who it was really jarring. He was just coming out like brand new to the San Diego church when I left for Graham, and I see him now on the videos that Gladys puts out at the protest. He's still in House of Prayer, and he's cruel. He's one of the really mean ones.
That's terrible.
Really mean.
That
Yeah,
is
it's actually really jarring to see.
It is. It's really sad. It's scary, is what it is.
It's really scary.
Yeah.
I've talked to the Figueroas since they came out too, so I feel like it's all come almost full circle. The Reeds are out, the Figueroas are out.
Right.
But yeah.
So
I
you
can't
got
imagine
ready
just
and
being
you
in that
went. You out processed and you went To Graham?
Out processed and up to Graham I went. Yep, I flew into Seattle, and one of the single sisters, there was 4 of us at the time. One of them picked me up at the airport. And this was before cell phones, so I don't know how we arranged it. I really don't know how this is all arranged.
Right.
Like how I knew where to meet her and at what time. I just can't even remember. But it was Annie. I don't know if you remember Annie.
Yeah. No, because this would have been what year?
1997, December 1997.
Right. No, I can picture the ladies who were in the dorm then. I may not remember all the... Of course, I remember Annie, because she was kind of statuesque.
Yes. Millie, Malerna, and Thena, and Annie. And then me. And this is actually funny. So I arrived. My plane came in late. Annie picked me up, and we got back to the little White House in Graham probably about, I don't know, 10:30, 11 at night. And there was no bed for me. So I can't remember who it was. But a couple of the office workers came over and came into the dorm with their hammers and some boards.
Oh, wait a minute.
And they built
you were paying for being in the dorm?
Yeah, well, yes.
But there was no room at the inn?
There was no room at the inn. So there was a bunk bed in one room, and 2 sisters were in there. And then the other room had... Oh, what did it have? It would have had 2 singles. So they came over that night and built like a rickety second story.
But they knew you were coming.
Oh, yes, because they had arranged with Anne for Annie to come pick me up.
Nothing says, welcome to Bible school, like, no bed for you.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. That is stunning.
Yeah.
And by the way, here's how much you pay in dorm fees.
Yeah. I wish I could remember how much it was. I don't remember back then.
Whatever it was.
I don't even have a guess.
Clearly it was too much, but you didn't even have a bed.
And it was cash, of course.
Yes. But I just can't, I'm not going to get over that there was no bed.
There was no bed.
Like, did the other girls even say anything when you came in? Like, well, so... We didn't want to mention it on the way here in case you opened the door and jumped out, but there's no bed for you. I mean, what?
I was not made aware of it until I walked into the room.
Really?
Yeah.
That, I can't even comprehend that. I'm sorry.
You know, I never thought about, like, that should have been a red flag.
You think? I don't know what color flag that is, but...
So I settled in with my rose-colored glasses on, and I signed all their paperwork.
Wow. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
How long before you got an actual bed?
I stayed on that bed until we moved to the dorm, like, down the road a year later, yeah. Or I think, you know, as somebody married off, I think Malerna got married first. Or no, it was Thena. Thena got married first.
Oh, okay.
So then I think I got to evacuate. I don't remember.
You know, that is just, I don't know. It's the kind of things you hear on documentaries about groups, extremist groups, and you're like, what? Why didn't you take that as a sign? Or... I mean,
right.
I don't know. I guess what comes in my mind, because now I have hindsight, which is 2020, and I was reminding my daughter earlier about Kinson. I have a video short of him talking about talking to some lady when he went to a doctor's appointment, I think, and he was saying, "Well, I'm a pastor." Oh, really? Where? At the church. Oh, the one behind the fence. Yeah. What is that in there? It's a Bible school campus too. It's a real college. Like, he said it like trying to be convincing, like he didn't even believe it himself. And you can look online at all different low grade, low rent facilities for Bible school, and they still have more than a board thrown together late at night. It'd be one thing if you said, I'm coming, and they said, well, listen, we don't have anything for you right now, but if you're willing, you know, you don't have to pay rent, or we're going to just have you pay $10 a week or something. Did you get a discounted rate? You don't remember?
No, definitely no discount. No discounts. I don't remember. I was just so eager. It's just so weird to look back and remember that, you know?
Just having fun with the girls
care.
in the room.
Like, it's all for the, right, and you're having fun, and you're getting to know new people, and classes are about to start, and you're finally there, you know?
Oh, my God.
And, and, you know, and there was things to do. Like, I had to get a job, and I had to get a car, and I had to...
Yeah, so a bed was incidental and all that. It's just like, it's like, meh, I need a car.
Right.
Can you guys make a car for me, too?
Oh, right, yeah.
So proceed.
I'm trying. I don't remember much about classes starting or when.
So you obviously got a job and a car.
Yeah, so I didn't have a car at first, and I had just gotten my driver's license in California.
What?
Yes, a week before I left California. I had never had a license before, which is a long story in itself. But so I didn't have a car. I did transfer my license over, but you know, it was all these different little things. I just learned to drive. I paid for a driving instructor and everything in California.
Well, that's good.
And I got a job, because you know that they make you get a job right away for tithing purposes and everything. You know, you have to be out, I think it's 8 to 4, is it? Searching for a job until you have one. Yep. Right, there's a rule.
Right.
So I took the first job that was offered to me, which was Jack in the Box, because another sister in the dorm worked there.
Did you work there before or after the whole, there was something that happened with the Jack in the Boxes there in Washington?
It was after.
Okay.
Yep. And I hadn't been aware of it, but they were. It was very much a part of the training and everything, yes. Right. They were very strict after that.
Oh, sure.
So that's how and I remember we had to get our special skirts ordered, because that wasn't what they normally give employees. Yeah, but they were great. You know, like, I mean, it was a fast food job, but they worked with us, and my schedule was perfect for Bible school. It was like 6 in the morning till 2:30. So I would go to work, come home, type my notes, do whatever, and then go to class at night. And
did you know how to type before you went to Bible school?
Yes. Yay. I was so lucky, because in high school, my junior year, it was like a throwaway class. I had to take something, and I was like, I guess I'll take typing. So we were all in this class with all these typewriters. You know, you were probably taking a class like that at some point, and I learned to type like the old-fashioned way. Yep. And I never knew how useful that would be. So yes, I knew how to type, and very thankful for it during that time. Oh, and I had to get a word processor.
Oh, really?
And I just remembered, do you remember, like, everybody would carry a briefcase?
Yes. Yeah, it looked like, I don't know, Men in Black or something.
I forgot all about that until just now.
I mean, I'm surprised they didn't have them line outside of the dorms and have you all march over like we used to do in tech school in the Air Force. We'd all meet out for formation, be looked over, and march to class with our briefcases, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you were able to use a word processor when you were in class?
It was the Brother. It was like an electric typewriter. It was okay. It really didn't do much.
Oh, because that was like
store your words and then print them out.
You cannot use word processors. I don't know what they use now. Do they still use old-fashioned typewriters? Who knows?
They must use computers. I don't even know. I can't even.
No.
I can't even imagine how they've changed, like how they've had to change, you know, because of the way the world is. let's kill them.
If only God knew that the world was going to change that way, he could have altered the man-made rules, way back in the day, but
There's such, it's just so funny. Like, they're so small, and and their rules, like everything, all their little outward standards that they cling to are all born straight out of 50, 60 years ago?
Yep.
70 years ago, the 50s.
Yep. Yes.
But that's it. That of all the thousands of years and, revelations that have been given, they've got the answer.
But yet it changed anyway.
And yet it changed anyway.
Yeah, that's
precisely
stunning. That is really the stunning part. Well, now, so
with no apology. That's like acknowledge,
No.
you're wrong. Okay.
No. Oh, we're sorry we put you through that. No, they can't do it because then it makes them look weak and like they did something wrong and outside of
they're
God's
infallible.
will. Yeah, exactly. So you're plugging away in Bible school and you're working at Jack in the Box and now it's a safe place to eat and you have a car and you're sleeping on the board and
I'm, fitting right in and taking good notes. I was one of those that had a lot of pages. I was in with the other big note taker for my class that you mentioned. And so, it was things, I thought things were great. I didn't have any big complaints about the church or anything. Just, I knew it was strict, but everybody, it was like when you're surrounded by only the people who are there agreeing that this is the way, this is normal.
Yes.
It's hard to see outside of that.
Were you made aware of the rules in the Bible school when you were in LA or San Diego or Okinawa for that matter? Maybe
a little bit. I mean, I don't think they sat me down and told me everything. I did know about the wall.
Oh.
Yeah, I was informed about that, how that worked. Okay. I really couldn't imagine it, but whatever. I didn't know just how strict it was. I didn't know how much of it rested on Davis's moods. Whether or not you could even speak. It's not like you're courting someone and you can just count on getting to talk weekly.
Right.
But there was a couple things that stand out. And again, like I said, during this time, it wasn't like I was hurt or upset about these things that I only now look back on and see as wow, that was really weird. I should have sat up and taken notice. I shared this story with you and I'll share it because I think people will be able to relate to the spirit which was behind this because I see him do it all the time to this day. But Michael Keckle, I think I had been at the Bible school maybe about a year. It was probably the following summer, early summer, maybe late spring. We were sitting in that library.
Oh, yeah.
The little library. And it was being used as a classroom.
Right.
And it was like a summer night. I just remember this. And he made some joke or somebody said something about bacon burning or something. And everybody, laughed in the obligatory way. And for some reason, and to this day I don't know why, but he zoned in on me in front of the class. And he said, "I don't know why you're laughing." He said, "I smelled the fat burning this afternoon when you were out there mowing the lawn."
He said it right to you?
Yes, in front of everybody, for unprovoked. I had no idea why. It was just like a shot out of nowhere, and I just laughed because honestly, it didn't hurt my feelings. I was that conditioned. I mean, also I had heard worse in the military boot camp, so it wasn't like I was went home and cried or anything. I just laughed it off. But I think I told you this. I went on the Atkins diet and lost 45 pounds in the next 2 months. So It obviously triggered something in me.
Right.
And I had put on a little bit of weight after I got out of the military at that time, probably about 40 pounds. So yeah, there was that. And so I would walk up and down that street when I would get off work and Jack in the Box.
We all walked up and down that street.
Up and down. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is really something how humans can be conditioned to accept that behavior and, well, to accept it, to not even balk about it or even feel the, obviously you didn't even feel like you needed to go up to him and say, sir, did I, rub you the wrong way or something that you had to do that?
Right. And it felt, okay, so now looking back and seeing it for what it was, I was probably 21 years old, single sister, supposed to be looking for a husband, and here's
this guy.
He probably would have been like, right, like 40-year-old man up there, like drawing all this attention to my body and just, it's so gross.
Yeah, it is. That's pretty creepy.
It is.
That is weird.
So whatever. I don't really care, but I do think it's indicative of who he is as a person.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that
He's
can
cruel,
be shown.
and he thinks he's funny,
Yeah,
and he feeds on like validation from others. Ugh.
Yeah, and he gets it by humiliating people.
Mhm.
Wow, that's sad. That's just sad. No bed, and you got the dean of the Bible school telling you you're
And
fat.
yet, I always most people that knew me, even to this day, when people like reconnect with me, they'll say like, "I remember you were always smiling," and even still to this day, like
Yes.
I kept a cheerful, and I was cheerful. Like I've been accused of being like a hopeless optimist, like just I'm less so these days, but I'm a little bit more of a realist these days. But that's always been just like my perspective. I've always been glad like things are good.
Right.
I'm gonna find the silver lining in everything.
Yes.
And so I never really complained much.
No, you were always smiling when
it.
I saw you or was around you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are you there?
Oh, sorry. I had to move again. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Sorry, I had to move my car because it's okay. They were moving people out of the parking lot I was in. I didn't know they did that at dark.
Let me get the recording back on. Am I on? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and talk about the wall?
Was I don't know what I expected. That wall, it was just the fellowship hall. 2 long tables with the women sitting all at one table and the men sitting all at another table. And then at the head was Davis and all of his the head guys, all the yes men, the board members.
Yes.
And then and then the line, the permission line, and all, they would all form this line leading up to Davis. And I hated going to fellowship hall. I hated it because you as a single woman, you're just you're just like a sitting duck. So you're sitting there and you don't know if somebody's going to come up to you and ask you to talk. It could be anyone,
right?
And I always felt so bad for anybody, not just if I got asked, but anybody that a brother that had to wait in that line and humiliate himself in front of all those men, asking for permission to talk to somebody. And then he has to go approach this women's table, this gaggle of women.
Yes.
And interrupt them and ask the sister, would you like to go speak privately or whatever he says? And I've seen them turn down. And they just walk out of the room and leave. And doesn't that just give you a sick feeling? It was awful. And it should, to me, that didn't make sense. If somebody's asking me to talk, let's take it at face value. I will talk to you. I'm going to talk, but it doesn't mean I want to get married. But that was not a good recipe for NTCC ways.
No. And it was hard to be someone who came into the organization married. And, we brought our kids with us. And most of the time, we went to fellowship, of course, to sit with the brethren, but also the kids wanted to see their little friends, but it became like, let's just go home and type notes or whatever we have to do, because that was during the heyday when there were a lot of people there in the school, not like now where it was crickets. It was hard to watch. It was sad. It was heartbreaking, really.
Yeah. And so, like, and I think I mentioned in a comment somewhere, there was a rule during that time made. I can't remember. You couldn't go to fellowship if your notes weren't typed.
All right.
And so a lot of us, like, I won't say, there was only 4 of us, maybe 5, but a few of us were just like, let's just go back to the dorm and like have a good old time typing our notes, having fun, and avoiding fellowship.
Yeah.
Whatever. It was so stupid. And it was one of those nights walking back. I've definitely talked about this when, like, Berna and Tanya, I swear they came out of the shadows.
Yeah.
And they, like, stepped out from, where Davis's house.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was in that other girls' dorm at that time, so I was walking back there, and they, like, came out at me, and they, had a suggestion for me, like, have you considered this brother to talk to court as a potential husband? And I did not know the brother. I didn't know who they were talking about, and I told them that. And it was, I believe it, definitely Verna's, I don't know if she was silent at that time. It was mostly Tanya talking, but she said, well, he's a good brother and he has money. And she, like, rubbed her fingers and her eyes got big. And it sat so gross to me, like, oh, I don't know who that is. And she got annoyed and, well, who do you want to marry? And the truth was, like, nobody. Like, it's not like I get to know anybody at all. Like,
right.
We were kept so separated completely. There was no Facebook. There was no cell phones. There was no memes being shared back and forth or anything like that. If you bumped into each other in public, we were only allowed to say, hello, brother, hello, sister.
Yep.
That is it.
Yep. Even if you
that
were
was addressed
in the laundry,
mm-hmm.
in the laundromat together or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. How do you get to even have an attraction towards someone if you can't be attracted? And you aren't the only one that Tanya and Verna approached. Who knows how many through the years?
Ugh.
Gobs.
Right. I did choose unwisely ultimately, but I ended up when my ex came to Bible college from Okinawa. He discharged from the military and came from Okinawa, and I knew he was on his way because there was several members of that church who had already been in Graham, and they were all pushing it. They were, oh, his brother's coming, and, they really wanted to see the two of us talking. It was probably 2 or 3 months of that I was hearing. So when he arrived and he asked me to talk one night, I talked to him, and I don't know, we talked. The pressure was on. I had been single for 2 years almost at that point in the girls' dorm, and he seemed safe. I knew of him from Okinawa.
Right.
We had never spoken,
right,
like personally before,
but you had some word of mouth to go on, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I got to turn around here. So we got married.
After how long?
So I think it was probably over several months. Davis was traveling a lot during that time. And when he was gone, there was no fellowship. There was no courting. There might have been fellowship, but there was definitely no courting when he was gone. So I can remember, like, one time it was like 6 or 8 weeks he was gone, and there was, like, in the midst of our courtship, there was nothing.
So you couldn't do anything. You couldn't do anything. Nothing even chaperoned or anything.
Nothing.
And you're adults.
Correct.
Supposedly.
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah. So then I got a ring and a proposal.
Really? Just did you feel like you guys connected on some level at all? Like,
oh, it's so hard to say.
Because it's within that environment.
The criteria that they laid out for us to look for in a man was like so bizarre. It was just, it was about money. You know, he had to have his stuff together. Like he should have. I don't even know if they gave a dollar amount, but for some reason I had in my mind like $10,000 they should have saved. I think that was probably mentioned about like going out into a worker. I don't know where I heard that, but you know, he should have money and he should be able to preach. He should like his preaching and and he should light your fire. That's the one I should have listened to.
Wow. Wow.
but anyways, let's just say there was a good mask presented to me, and I bought it, and I got married.
Right. And you guys were there in Graham?
Yes, we were the first marriage at the Big Chapel once it opened.
Oh, I think you sent me a picture of that.
Yeah, and the only reason I think we were allowed to do it there was because both of our families had flown in from out of state to see the wedding. His parents from Ohio and mine from Massachusetts.
And did either of the parents ask, like, so, how long have you guys known each, like, you know, the normal stuff that parents ask?
Kind of, yeah. Like, they were just informed over the phone, you know, from Fred Meyer's payphone.
Yeah.
I called them, like, by the way, I'm getting married. And they had questions, but, like, they knew I was in a cult. So what could they do?
Right.
So they came out to be supportive, and this was the day of the wedding. We were getting married that night after a Thursday night service. Both of our families were in town, and I think in order to not appear as weird as they were, they granted us special permission that day and that day only for all of us to go out together. Like, we drove separately, and we met at a restaurant. His family, my family, and me and him. The day we got married, we were getting married. And I have a picture somewhere that my parents insisted we take. And you should see it. Like, he's got his hands crammed in his pants pocket, and I'm standing about like a foot and a half away from him with my hands like very clearly by my sides too.
So
it's so ridiculous.
So you couldn't even like sidle up to each other and hold hands or something and be normal.
Yes.
Yeah, that is weird. And what's funny is
we had never touched.
Wow. And you know, when you're in that situation, it's not until you're around people who are out that you realize. I mean, I don't know if you two realize that, or you were just trying to do the right thing.
I was just trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
I won't snitch on anyone, but I can remember a couple sisters. You would hear about who would go to get their marriage license, and they would arrange it so that they would, like, I don't know if they would just not just go in for the certificate, but they would sneak a kiss. And I was shocked.
Right. What?
Right.
That's practically fornication.
Right. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, no, I was a rule follower when it came to all of this stuff.
Yeah, me too.
And cheerfully.
I told on myself several times for things that I'm sure it was like, I don't know why she's telling me this, but okay. We have her.
It was like, yeah, it was like the internet. Remember, I think I commented about that. Like, my ex set it up, and I was so like, no, you need to call and make sure this is allowed. Like,
yeah.
You know, I made him call Keckle and ask if we could have it, in fact. And by the way, the answer was yes in 2001.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
But don't let it be known, because many won't be able to handle it.
Yeah.
That was the instruction.
Wow. The Centernet. I don't think we had it that early. We may have. I don't know. But yeah, it had to be by special granting of permission to have it.
Right, yes.
Especially since in 2001, I believe it was, we moved onto the campus. So we were in that oldest house that was behind the dorms. So not one of the white ones, not where the butlers live, not where, right where you can't. Well, various people lived in that end house, like the Ripkas, the Pars, I forget who else lived there, while we were living there, but we were in I think it was one of the first houses that was built there.
Wow.
Right.
I never lived on campus after I moved out of the girls' dorm.
Yeah.
So it was like, it's weird, like you're getting married to a stranger, but also it was like, I was off campus and like finally, like I'm married and like I'm in my own place and like it was exciting, like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. It probably
that was
kind
in
of
1999. Yeah, that was in 1999, and then we graduated, both of us, in 2001. At that time, the new chapel was open with a new soul winning program, and nobody was really going anywhere because they needed to count all their numbers there.
Yeah, it's true.
And I hated that program. I hated
terrible.
it from the moment it was instituted.
It was terrible. It really
Awful.
It just felt so, well, like everything there, so structured
and stifled.
Stifling. Did they do stuff like that in Okinawa when you were there?
No, they did that in none of the churches I was in. Like, it was very natural, organic. Like, you meet people, and it felt, that, like I said, I was so excited. Like, it was very easy for me to, like, share my excitement with people and bring them with me.
No, and I agree. It was the same for us. It wasn't until the Ashmores left and a couple came in to take over for them in the Philippines, which I'm surprised they sent someone right out of Bible school, but they did, because you don't learn anything in there and nothing to help you. And the first thing he instituted was we all needed to get little notebooks and pens and write down the names of the people we were going to visit. These were just our friends and acquaintances on base.
I'm wondering if maybe they did in Okinawa and I didn't know because I was so new to the church and I was a female.
You were on the list in a notebook, lady.
I didn't have a notebook, but you know who did? My ex. And I'm wondering now if he didn't get that idea from the service principal.
Yeah.
He kept a note.
Yeah. Right. And then you would have to come to a little meeting and we would have to say what happened. Did you go see them? And after 3 times, you were supposed to cross them off.
I was probably shielded from some of that. I was still so new.
You were on the list. You were in the notebook. That's why.
I probably was, right? Oh.
There was a little heart next to your name.
Right.
She's on board.
I was on board.
Go for the kill. That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that soul winning program up there was, I don't know of anyone who enjoyed going in the neighborhoods and knocking on doors and, trying to make it seem normal, but you're all dressed up like you're going to a business meeting. And
the day they said, I remember gathering in that big chapel on Saturday mornings, and the day, it must have been Keckle, he was always the one speaking.
Right.
He went off on one of his rants. Don't talk to them about Jesus, just get them to church.
Yep.
It's like, what?
They told us that all the time in those meetings. You don't talk to them there at the door. You would get them in church where the Holy Ghost can do his thing,
Those were like some of the starting, like I was starting to question things.
Yes.
Just little bits where like things were not sitting right with me.
Right.
But back before I started questioning things, I don't know if you want to include this, but I really think back on this story, and I won't say her name, but if she ever happens to listen to this, she'll know who I'm talking about. Because there was a sister who's still in, pastor's wife. She had come to Graham to visit her brother, who was a single brother in the dorm, across the street from the girls' dorm.
Right.
And they wanted her to stay. And so one night
Wait,
after
who
service,
wanted her to say? The brothers or the organization?
NTCC.
Okay.
She was young. She was vibrant. The whole family ended up moving out there. And anyways, so she came to visit, and I got pulled aside in the midst of all these rules, fellowship rules. You can't talk to anyone. You can't even call anyone on the phone. I was still single. Keckle pulled me aside and gave me a blanket permission. I didn't ask for it. I didn't even know her. And told me that this brother's sister was coming and that I was to befriend her and basically get her in. And I got to do everything with her. Like the next several months. We went to conference together. We did everything. She got me my first email address at the library one day.
Wow. So
Mm-hmm.
let me understand this. This girl came to visit her brother, who was in the dorms.
Mm-hmm.
She
Yes.
stayed with you in the single ladies dorm.
She didn't stay with me. I don't remember where she was staying at first. She might have had I don't know where she was staying. She eventually got in a small studio apartment.
Okay.
Somewhere, but
why was she there to begin with? Just to visit her brother?
Just to visit her brother. Yeah.
And then did you what Keckle said to you very plain, or did you infer a lot from what he said? Like, was he talking around it? It was very plain.
It was very plain. Yes. Befriend her, get her in.
So did you do that? Like, was she claiming to be a Christian already?
Yeah, she was. So it was awesome. I loved it. She was great, and we had so much fun. Oh my gosh. And it was just, you know what? It just reminded me of being back in the churches that I had been in before,
right.
Graham,
where you
had
all
freedom.
The permission.
Right. So it was actually a beautiful time, and it worked. She stayed.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then did she find out about all the permission after she stayed?
I never told her. Of course not.
No, I mean, if she stayed, did she go to Bible school and get married?
She did. Yeah, she eventually went to Bible school, and you know how that goes.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. So, I mean, that's something. I think that started in the churches. I know it did under Blumenthal, and he was the preacher, the pastor. So it was the Ashmores in the Philippines, then the Keys came from Bible school, and then Blumenthal's. And he would do stuff like that. Try to tell you to put pressure on people or yeah. But he would word it in a way where you thought you were, being a blessing to the person.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, it wasn't said in an aggressive way. It was this is a wonderful thing, we want her to be a part.
Who wouldn't want to be a part of this?
Right.
program.
Show her how wonderful it can be. That was more like that.
Wow. Right. That makes sense. Well, listen, let's stop this right now because it's almost 10:30. And I know it's not a cut and dry stopping point, but that's okay because I feel like you're really someone I think people will enjoy listening to. Before we end this, so I read what that lady said. I think it was a lady. This anonymous person on FACTnet was looking for information about NTCC. And April, you said, "Hello, yes, I could tell you all about them. I belonged to them for over 5 years, but left them over a year ago. Are you a present or past member, or were you just invited out to one of their services?" And then you said that you not only attended their church, but went to and graduated from their school in Graham. And then the person asked, "Why did you leave the church a year ago?" And I think I just want to read this, and maybe we'll leave it at that. And then, no, I don't know. What do you think?
I'd like to hear what I said. I
Okay,
can't remember
yeah.
everything.
Okay, good. I'm trying to be respectful and not hold you up.
Oh, no, yeah, no, it's okay. I'm curious I mean, I've
Okay.
read it since, but.
Yes. Well, I thought you were very, very nice, and what you said was, well, it's a long story, but to give you a general idea, the church was very, very controlling. There were rules for just about everything. It started out good enough. Everything seemed wonderful, which matches everything you've just said. But once you
Right.
got to the Bible school, the law was laid down, and it didn't end after graduation. Once you went to Bible school, your life was theirs. Seriously. You had to ask the pastor for permission for just about everything you did. If you wanted to have people over your house, you had to call and ask for permission. Women were told how to dress, so were the men, for that matter. No TV, no movies, no arcades, no bowling, no radio preachers, etc., etc. But I was so fully submerged into this group. Oh, that must be your Navy talk coming out. Fully submerged into this group that it didn't seem odd at the time. We were told the rules were for our own good. It was only later that I wondered why the rules were even needed. If God couldn't keep us from sin, why would a bunch of rules keep someone from sinning? God knows our hearts. There is so much I could tell you about how our lives were controlled, but I'm not sure exactly what you want to know. Anyway, I started having my doubts about the church, and then one day I picked up a book about cults and spiritually abusive groups. Boy, was I surprised to find out that this group I had been involved in, this group that was my life, fit almost every definition of a cult. It wasn't easy, but my husband and I decided to stop attending. We had to cut ourselves off from everyone there. Once we decided to leave, we lost every friend we ever had there. They weren't allowed to associate with us anymore. It wasn't easy, but I know we made the right decision. I feel like we were living in bondage to a bunch of rules over all those years. And now we are free. Anyway, that's the condensed version. There's so much more, though. And I think that's a great place to end it, actually, because I like that you mentioned in there about reading the books, because that's what helped me understand what I was involved in. And I highly recommend that for everyone, that.
The books. Yes.
Yeah. Any good ones, good resources.
Right. There's so many resources out there, but some of these, some of these original works and books are just, oh, wow.
Yeah. You read them
cults,
that's what I was in. This describes it. And I think I've mentioned too, and I don't know if you ever reached out to anyone like of the authors or anything, but the book Twisted Scriptures, I reached out to that lady, and she actually called me from an airport when she was flying overseas to talk to me and to encourage me. And
that's
that
amazing.
Is what I've always remembered. And then another, not Yanya Lalich, but another lady, I'd have to think of it. She wrote to me and several emails of encouragement. And
wow.
I told her that I was writing online at the time, and she said that will probably help you too. You're once you're sorting things out. But I didn't start to write until I had read, and it sounded like that's what you did as well.
For sure. I just couldn't believe, as I read, the more I read, and the more I branched out even from those original, I started learning about other groups that are out there and other groups that people have escaped. And to realize that they're all essentially the same, with the same exact tactics. It's like a playbook.
Yes.
It's not unique. It's not special.
No.
It's not ordained of God.
No.
There's been groups like this for all of time.
Yes.
That's why they're warned about in the Bible that they cling to.
Going all the way back, yep. But they don't mention those things. Or they turn it and say they're warning their flock about those of us who dare to talk because we're bitter and hateful and all that. But I don't think there's a sense of bitterness and hatefulness it's not from me because I don't feel that.
Mm-mm.
I don't sense that in you or anyone that
I
I've
don't.
interviewed, for that matter.
It's no bitterness. I mean, it's a very small part of my life. It affected my life,
Yes.
but no, it's not from a place of bitterness. But I'm also not going to just not tell my stories, my memories. They're mine. It's
Yes.
my experiences,
Yes.
and whether they like it or not, we get to tell our stories.
Yeah, we can't be gaslit anymore by their tactics. And,
Hmm.
that's too bad, so sad for them. But yeah, and you know what I realize over time? It's like if you try to pull a punch or be kinder, gentler, like to soften a blow or something. I say a blow, I mean in telling a story. I've found that that isn't always good. It's good just to tell it. Just to tell it.
Yeah,
And let the
get it out
chips
there.
fall where they may. Yes, just get it out there and let it fall. But I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
I'm so excited about just what you're doing and about just the people that are just sharing their experiences.
Yeah, and what's cool is it's not. There are some people who are there all the time, but I like that people kind of come in and out of the whole situation and
Hmm.
and drop their truths in and then go on their way because it's not for everyone. Like I feel
No way.
compulsion and
Right now, I'm there with you. It's exactly like you said. Like there was a long time when there's no way I was gonna waste my energy and
yes.
life and everything, my good years on them. No way.
Yes.
But now I have the time. My kids are grown,
Yeah.
and I'm curious to make sense of my life.
Yes.
so,
Yes. And
so I'm digging.
we already know there are folks that have been affected and have left. And I'm really
Yeah.
happy about that. And that's what helped me. It was you and all the others that piled on top of that. That's why you're the FACTnet OG, because had you not answered that lady, maybe nobody would have. Why do I keep making that person a lady? I don't know.
I don't know. I have no idea who it was. I think I saw one time somebody made a suggestion that I answered myself, which is ridiculous. Because
Oh, is
why
that
would I do
right?
it and then wait 6 months?
Right.
Someone suggested that I posted the original question and then answered it myself.
Well, hey, is that any stranger than Denton saying that I'm using AI to alter what
True.
he
True.
says and all? Oh
The
my.
way whether this goes in or not, I don't know, but the way he's been talking about all this AI stuff makes me wonder if he's not the one behind those AI websites.
Yeah, who knows? It's
It's just a random thought that popped into my head.
right. Like if you're the one that projects it, maybe it's because you're
Mhm.
telling on yourself like so many of these preachers do. So that I hadn't heard that one about you. It's so crazy. Yeah, and you waited all those months.
I waited 6 months.
Oh my God. All right, Sarah, I'm going to let you go, honey.
Yay. All right. Thank
And
you.
I
This was
appreciate
fun.
you. And
All right.
please be
Have a
careful
good
going
night.
home.
I will.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye bye.